It's over here. We are learning today Be'ezrat Hashem Sukkah. We're on Daf Base, first page of Masechah Sukkah. Sorry, running a bit late. Learned to Nishmas Bacha B'Suf Yehuda Gzan Ben David. Chaim Kornbluth Shaka Feitel. We are on around the middle of the page, first Talmud and Sukkah. So till now we've been discussing, the Mishnah says there's a machlekes. Quick recap. There's machlekes how tall your sukkah is allowed to be. Chum said till 20 yamas, till 20 feet. Reb Yehuda said it's kosher above 20 feet. That's not a problem. And the gemorah wants to know, why is 20 feet the problem? What's the problem with 20 foot? So far we've seen a few opinions. One is that it says in the pasuk Omer Rava, it says, L'man yedu de'reseichem, you have to know you're sitting in a sukkah. If the schach is above 20 feet, you don't know you're sitting in a sukkah. You don't see the schach. That's one opinion. The second opinion is, because the schach, you have to sit inside the schach has to be the thing blocking the sun from hitting you. And if the walls are 20 feet high, the walls are blocking the sun from hitting you, not the schach. Second opinion. Okay, so there's three opinions over here. What was the third opinion? Good question. I hear you all asking me. So, Abai asked on that. Are you sitting in the or it's a pasuk for Sukkatil itself? Okay, so the gemorah wants to know now. We're up to over here in the gemorah. The gemorah says, Rava Amacha. This is the third opinion we're about to hit. Rava Amacha. The sukkah's teishvu yeshivs yom. It says in the Torah, you should sit in a sukkah for 7 days. You should sit in a sukkah for 7 days. Famous pasuk. Sukkah teishvu am Torah called yeshivs yomim tzei midyas kva shev midyas arai. For 7 days, you're supposed to leave your regular house, get out of your house, your fancy 3-story brick and mortar, your house, and go into a temporary abode, a temporary dwelling place, into a hut. That's what the Torah says. Sit in the sukkah for 7 days. So says Rava, that's Mama, other ways to do is alright. So since you're supposed to move into a temporary abode, a temporary dwelling place, something not permanent, not a permanent structure that lasts for generations or forever. Some buildings are for thousands of years, right? So you're supposed to go into a temporary thing. Anything above 20 feet, your person makes permanent. I guess the idea is, if it's that high up, you've got to give it foundations, you've got to make it strong, otherwise it's not going to last even for a week. So once it's strong, it's going to last for a long time. Now, I'm not an architect. You would assume, I'm not a structural engineer. You would assume that you could make it weak enough. It's 20 feet high. It's weak enough that it could last for a week or a few days. It doesn't matter how high you make it, but apparently no. Once you go a certain height, once you make a structure a certain size, it needs to be that strong that it's going to last now like a regular building. That's what the Torah is telling me. So you've got to move into a permanent abode. You've got to go into a permanent home, nothing that lasts forever, because it says leave your house and go into something temporary. So it can't be 20 feet high, because above 20 feet, that's already permanent. It's already a strong structure. So says the Gemara, Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says to Rava, Elamata, also mechisa shabasa v'sicha gabei nachenam lo yavi sukkah. If that's true, what turns out that if what you're telling me is that the Torah is demanding that you move into some type of flimsy shed, hut, whatever. So if you made a sukkah out of metal walls, thick metal walls, bomb shelter, right? It should be possible. And we know that it's kosher. So it should be possible. As long as you can have thick, massive wooden brick walls. As long as the schach on top is thin, you're fine. As long as you've got leaves on the roof, right? So, in other words, once you're telling me there can't be a certain height, the sukkah, because of this gzeirus hakosov that has to be temporary, not permanent, it can't be strong enough to be permanent. So what about the thickness of the walls? You can tell me the walls can't be thick, they can't be metal, they can't be strong? Who said? You can. L'chayr you can. So Amalei, so he answered back, he's got an answer. This is his answer. Achika aminalach. Until 20 amas that people do usually make temporary huts. If you make it permanent, if you make it under 20 feet, but it's strong, then it's going to be good. Then it's kosher. If you make it above 20 amas, the other most is keva. A guy makes above 20 amas is normally permanent. It's a permanent structure. If you make it temporary, you're also not going to be Yitzah. It won't work for you. In other words, the Torah is giving a shear, the Torah is giving a measurement how high the sukkah can be that is kosher. It doesn't matter if the structure itself is built strong or it's weak, but the Torah says you have to go to a temporary structure. What it means is that it's got to be a height that could be temporary. Now, since above 20 feet, no one makes temporary a 20-foot high building, a 25-foot high building, right? Why are you making a 25-foot high temporary building? But since a person only makes you less than 20 amas is normally a permanent size, is less than 20 amas is a temporary size. Therefore, as long as it's below 20 feet, you're allowed to make it even with thick metal walls. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Says the gemorah. Turn the page. No one agrees with Rabbah. Why? Why does everyone argue with Rabbah? Again, Rabbah said, it says in the pasuk, "Leman yedu dareseichem." Do you have to be aware, Leman yedu, in order that you should know, dareseichem, for future generations, that when I took you out of Egypt, you sat in these tabernacles, you sat in sukkahs, right? So why does no one else agree with that? Because that verse, according to everyone else, is telling us that we have to remember forever and ever we sat in a sukkah, right? That's what the verse is telling me. It's not telling me that when you're actually sitting in a sukkah, you have to be looking at the schach and going, oh, look at all the nice leaves over there, right? So that's not what's going on in the pasuk. The pasuk's not telling me that you have to know you're sitting in a sukkah. It's telling me that for generations we should remember that we came out of Egypt. God took us out in sukkahs. Rashi explains. Take a look in Rashi, first line. Ahu, lav b'yadiyah the yeshiva sukkah. It doesn't mean when you're sitting inside the sukkah you've got to know you're in the sukkah. Ela b'yadiyah's dairais habayin hekef sukkahs anani akovad and nazis la'avis. We have to remember that when we came out of Egypt, we sat in clouds of glory. The sukkahs, according to this opinion, is, I don't know why Rashi is machriya, but Rashi's saying that if we have to remember the day, so we sat in sukkahs, what it means is that when we came out of Egypt, we were in the desert for 40 years. How do we survive in the desert for 40 years? God surrounded us with these clouds of glory, anani akovad, miraculous clouds, protect us from the rain, from the sun, from the heat. We have anani akovad. That's what we have to remember. Doesn't mean you have to look at the schach. We have to remember that we sat in anani akovad. Says the gemorah, why does no one else like Reb Zera's drasha? Reb Zera says, it says in the pasuk, sukkah te'el the sukkah is in order to protect you from the sun, right? And Reb Zera says above 20 feet, you're not sitting in the schach, which is the main part of the sukkah, the leaves on top. Above 20 feet, the leaves are protecting you. The walls are protecting you. You've got these tall walls, and the walls are protecting you, not the schach. Why? That verse is talking to the time, let it be soon, when Mashiach is going to come. Mashiach is going to come, and the sukkah tier itself, whatever that means, we're going to be protected by the sukkah. That's what the pasuk is talking about. The sukkah tiyel itself, when Mashiach comes, it's going to protect us. But a regular sukkah that we sit in once a year, that doesn't have to be to protect us from the sun. It's got nothing to do with protecting us from the sun. The sukkah that pasuk is talking about, the sukkah tiyel itself, is talking about when Mashiach comes. The sukkah will protect us from the sun, whatever that means. That will be protected from the evil forces when Mashiach comes by some type of spiritual protection. Maybe it's talking about the Iron Dome protecting us from missiles coming in. We'll be protected on top. That's what it means. When in the times of Mashiach, there'll be some type of protection on top. Gag, Magag, there's a gag, some type of roof. Or Magag, we're going to be protected from on top. That's what it says when Mashiach comes. That's the remez. Sukkah tiyel itself. Sukkah is going to protect us. Says the gemorah. That's why they don't like Reb Zera. So how does Reb Zera understand? Reb Zera, he doesn't know the pasuk talking about Mashiach. Of course, it's talking about when Mashiach comes. Of course, it's talking about when Mashiach comes. How does he understand? How's he learning from this pasuk? This blatantly talking about when Mashiach comes. That a sukkah, right, has to, even nowadays, you got to be protected from the sun, from the schach. How does he know that? The pasuk is talking about Mashiach. So Rosero, what's he going to understand? Im kain lemakra v'chuppah tiyel itself. If it's talking, if it's only trying to tell me about when Mashiach comes and we're going to be protected on top, we'll have some type of protection, a defense mechanism covering us, right? When Mashiach comes, it should say v'chuppah. The chuppah will protect you. Chuppah is like a canopy. Why is it the sukkah tiyel itself? The word sukkah is supposed to chuppah to tell me two things. Also, when Mashiach comes, we're going to be protected on top. We'll have an iron dome system in place or something like that. I don't know if that's the one, right? Oh, and to tell me a separate thing. The sukkah tiyel itself, even nowadays, the sukkah of mitzvah, that has to protect us. The sukkah nowadays has to also protect us from the sun. Oh, so he's learning out two denim from the same pasuk. Unbelievable. Wow. Look at this nevuah. Thousands of years ago. I'm so taken away from this. Torah tells us thousands of years ago that the time of Mashiach we're going to have a covering, a protection on top. Unbelievable. It's mind-blowing. Could you imagine? Wow. So my sukkah tiyel itself, Shema Menotati, we learn from it two dinim. Two things. Okay, so Kurava Nami Lo Yami, why does everyone else not agree with Rava? Why did they not agree with Rava? Mishum Kushat Abaye. Again, Rava said, why can you not sit in a sukkah above 20 feet? Because above 20 feet, it's already permanent. And Torah says, go into a temporary house, not a permanent house. Because of the kasha of Abaye. Abaye's kasha. What was Abaye's kasha? Abaye said, if that's true, then you shouldn't be able to make walls out of metal. That was Abaye's kasha. And he answered, what it means is that it's going to be a height that you could make it temporary. It's going to be able to make it temporary. That's the height of the building. But if the walls are metal, that's fine, as long as you could have made them with thin walls. And you can't make a 50 feet high building with thin walls. It's got to be already thick walls. So, but everyone else holds of Abaye's kasha. They're like, no, Abaye's got a good kasha of it. That's not a good teretz. Okay, so that's why we need three different opinions. Why your sukkah can't be above 20 feet high? Is it because it's not temporary, it's already permanent, or because you're no longer sitting, the schach is not protecting you from the sun, or because you can't see the schach, it's too high up, you don't pay attention to the schach. So those are the three opinions in the gemorah till now, why the sukkah above 20 feet is possible. We didn't see why Rav Yehuda says it's kosher, right? But these are the three opinions in the Chachamim why above 20 feet is possible. And we also now analyze the three reasons why everyone else doesn't agree with the other three reasons. Why you need three reasons? Why each one doesn't agree with the other one's reasons. Okay. The Gemara now moves on. Now we're going to see three different Amoraim that quote Rav. And Rav makes a quantifying statement as to the machlaikas in the Mishnah. The machlaikas Rabbi Yehuda and Chacham if a sukkah could be above 20 feet or not. That's the machlaikas. We're sticking to that machlaikas. Says Rav. Amar Yeshi Amar Rav. Machlaikas bein tfanas megis lechach. You know when the machlaikas Rabbi Yehuda and Chacham is? That's only if the walls do not reach the schach. The wall's finished down here, and the schach's up here. In other words, you've got some type of structure holding up the schach, but the walls don't reach the schach. The walls finish low. The walls finish a meter high, and the schach 10 meters high, right? So the machlekes b'she'en tfanas megis l'schach. When's the machlekes b'yudach chachamim? That's only if the walls are low. Avol tfanas megis l'schach, if the walls reach all the way up to the schach. The walls go all the way up, then above 20 feet it's also fine, there's no problem. Why? So now the Gemara asks, the Gemara is going to do an analysis. Which one of the three explanations in the Mishnah is this going to go according to? Again, the machlekes in the Mishnah is only when there's short walls. But if there's tall walls, regular walls, then there's no machlekes. The sukkah could be 100 feet high, no problem. Who's that going according to? Come on. Gemara says, Rabba, this is going according to Rabba, the what? The Rabba says it's because your eyes don't see it. The reason why it's schach above 20 feet is possible because you don't see the schach. You don't pay attention to it. But if the walls reach the schach, then you do pay attention. In other words, if you're sitting in a building that's 100 feet high, you see the ceiling, no problem, right? There's a ceiling there, you see, you pay attention, because your eyes follow the wall till the corner. This is ask architects to tell you this, interior designers. Your eyes automatically pay attention to the corner, so you see the schach. So if the walls reach the schach, it could be 100 feet high. It doesn't matter. You're always going to see the schach. So when is it possible above 20 feet? If the schach is 20 feet high, but the walls finish here, you're not even going to see the schach. You're going to walk in there, eat. You're not going to know that 100 feet in the air there's schach. Because there's no corner, there's no walls. You don't look up. As soon as there's a wall, you automatically look up and you see the schach, and it's good. You see the schach, you know you're sitting in a sukkah, you're fine. Shalom. So that's, according to Rav, the machlekes is only for walls don't hit the schach, according to Rabbi Yeshi Amar Rav. And we explained that makes sense according to Rav. But according to the other opinions, what does it help me? Permanent, temporary, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as far as if it's giving you tzel, if it's protecting you from the sun, if there's walls over there. The question is if the schach is protecting you. Okay, so this only works according to Rav. Says the gemorah. Now we have another opinion of Rav Huna in the name of Rav. The machlekes shem ba'al arba al arba amos. What's the machlekes in the Mishnah between Rav Huna and Rav? Schach is the leaves we put on top of the sukkah. So the machlekes in the Mishnah is going to be if the sukkah, the tabernacle, is not 4 by 4. I think that's the word they use, right? Sukkah. If it's not 4 feet by 4 feet. Now, what's the land displacement that your sukkah, your temporary abode, is taking? If it's 4 feet by 4 feet. So the machlekes is pshei b'al arba. The machlekes is about 20 feet. How high it could be is only if it's a small sukkah, 4 feet by 4 feet. If it's a 50-foot wide sukkah, if it's 1,000 square foot sukkah, then your roof could be 100 meters high. I don't care. There's no problem with that. When is it a problem having a very high sukkah? That's only if you have a small sukkah that's 4 feet by 4 feet. Whatever, the size of your kitchen table, right? But if it's bigger than that, then according to everyone, it's fine. So who's that going to? Which opinion does this fit in with? In our explanation of the machlekes between Yehuda and Chachamim. Says the Gemara, it's Kaman Reb Zera, the Amar Mishum Tzal. This fits in with Reb Zera that says the sukkah is because of Tzal. Why? The Chivit Ervicha, You could sell sukkah. Once you have a huge wide sukkah, it doesn't matter how high the schach is. It doesn't matter. If the diagram I showed you yesterday, I don't know if we have it here still. You're only sitting in the shadow from the wall if it's a tall, narrow sukkah, right? Then the sun's coming from the side. But if the sukkah is 100 feet wide, it could be 25 feet high, and the schach is going to be protecting you from the sun. That's the whole point, right? The whole point is the schach protects you from the sun. And it's only a problem if the sukkah is like this, tall, long and narrow. It looks like a chimney, so you're not getting protected from the schach, because we said, according to the angle of the sun midday in Sukkot in Israel, the sun is not directly on top where the schach is protecting you. The sun is always about 55 degrees north, and therefore the sun's always coming in at an angle. The walls are protecting you. The schach is not protecting you at all, right? However, if it's bigger than 4 amas by 4 amas, then already the sun will be hitting you. Do the math, you'll see it. It works out quite nicely, the angles and the whole thing. I didn't print it out. Okay. So says the gemorah. So now there's a third opinion there. Of Reb Chaim Amarav. What's the machlekes in the Mishnah? That's only if we're talking about a tiny sukkah that holds Roshei v'Rubash Shechanai, which is 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim, a meter by a meter. We're talking about a sukkah that's a meter by a meter. The person is big enough for someone to sit down. Roshei v'Rubash Shechanai. Rashi explains it. In those days, they used to eat lying down on a bed. They had some type of chaise long. They lied down when they ate. They leaned to the left, Rashi says. And we know that from Pesach, where we all lean. So, most of your body, a meter is most of your body, basically, right? A tall guy, 190, I'm 189, I'm a tall guy. So a meter is more than half your body. As long as you got that meter-sized sukkah, you can lie down, your head and your body in the sukkah, with a little bit of a table, and it's a kosher sukkah. So that's the machlekes of Yehuda Chachamim. Only a tiny sukkah that's 20 feet high like that. This is wide, a meter wide and 10 meters high, right? That's the machlekes. But if it's bigger than a meter, it's fine. It's kosher, no problem. So who's that going according to? Says the gemorah. The loikachat? Who's this going to go according to? Come on, the loikachat. It's a bishma relation. Who is this? That's a gross kasha. Who is this opinion? This doesn't seem to fit in with anyone. The loikachat. This doesn't seem to apply to any of these opinions over here. So Gemara answers bishma relation. Okay, we're going to have to see tomorrow. It's already getting a little bit complicated. We'll see tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem, how this machlekes pans out. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful day. I have to finish early, unfortunately. No, I'm not a rabbi, whoever's asking over there. Nice to meet you.